friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. This is so exciting. I'm so excited to have you here, Brittany. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Of course, I'm excited too.
Yeah, and I was so excited to see your Belhaven sweatshirt. And feel free to reshare that story. That was awesome.
Oh, sure. I was saying, so me and my dance friend from school, Kim Holloway, when we choreographed a piece this last August for the fall show, this is when I got this one because I think our class, when is it, 2009? I think we were the last class that it was Belhaven College. So I had to get a university shirt. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Got to get the update for sure.
updates. Exactly. Yeah.
Now, okay, how do you feel about the change from college to university? I feel like this was like a very big topic of conversation.
Was. I think at first, it took some time to adapt. And I was
Yeah.
like, Belhaven, like I was so used to saying BC, BC, BC and stuff like that. But I also was, I think I stayed and lived in Mississippi from '09 and I moved in 2012. So I was there 3 years after I graduated.
Okay.
So it took a little time to acclimate to Belhaven University. And so now to me, it's not one way or the other, doesn't
Right. It's
matter.
just normal.
I don't think I've updated. I think you could update your degree, like your
Oh,
actual
yeah, like
degree.
get them to
Yeah,
send an updated one
they're
or
supposed
whatever.
to send an update. Yeah, and I don't even know where that is. I think it's somewhere, but I think I have an updated one. I think.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. I just
Yeah.
remember it being like this interesting conversation.
It was.
And yeah,
Yes.
because I came in, I guess, in the fall of '08. So I was there your senior year. And,
Okay.
and then like saw the transition happen. But by the time we graduated, it was pretty like
Established.
normal. Yeah,
Normal.
established
Yeah,
by
that
that
makes
point.
sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So funny. Anyways.
Yeah.
But speaking of, we're here today, and I'm so excited to have you as part of our Belhaven Alumni Series to celebrate 30 years of dance.
Yes.
Woohoo!
It's
So
awesome.
fun. Yeah, it's
Awesome. Awesome.
wild.
It is wild. It's crazy. And my class, I got there at fall of '05 and Bitsy Irby was being built. So my freshman class was the first, I guess, freshman class to be in Bitsy Irby and kind of experience that new way of, I guess, the arts or the dance department being in that building. So we were
That's
only in
cool.
Bitsy Irby for, I mean, the other studios for like, I don't know, maybe 6-ish weeks or so.
Oh,
And then
okay.
my class is the Hurricane Katrina class. So it's like we
Oh,
got to
man. So you guys
school.
were like
Yeah,
all
we
the
were just
things.
like all
Here's
new, like
college.
what, I don't know, like
Yeah.
what's happening. So yeah, so it was like we got to school and then it's like we were out of school and then we came back to
Yeah.
school and then we're in a new building. And yeah, so it was a lot of change that first semester. It took me a little while to adjust just in general. So
That
but
makes
yeah, but
sense. And then
yeah,
especially with all of that kind of change and yeah,
yes,
but that's so cool.
yeah,
What would you
yeah.
say? I don't know. What was that like transitioning from, because you guys were still meeting in the gyms, is that
In the
right?
gym, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm even trying to remember because it's been a little while. Because we
Yeah.
weren't there for very long. So it
Right.
almost, and that's where actually I auditioned. So was
Oh,
in those
okay.
studios. So I think
Hmm.
I kind of got to school thinking that that's where we would be. And then so I think I had like a modern class in one part, and then there's the actual, which now at Belhaven, I think it's the actual gym, like workout gym, like it's like
Oh,
upstairs on
yes.
top
Yeah,
of,
you go up.
yeah, you go
Mm-hmm.
up, right, and that's where I had ballet. So it was kind of more long and skinny type
Ah.
studio. And so yeah, like I said, I think we were there probably 6 weeks, maybe, if that
Yeah.
before we transitioned to Bitsy Irby. And even that transition was, things were still very new. I think they were still
Mhm.
getting like curtains up, and everything was still
Right.
transitioning. You
All
could
the
still
last
smell the new
details and
paint.
stuff.
Yeah, like you couldn't touch
Uh-huh.
anything yet because the paint was still drying. So everything was very clean and just very new and pristine. And I just remember falling in love with Studio 3.
Oh yeah.
It's just so gorgeous, like just the windows and the broadness and the
Hmm.
openness. So I'm like, this is beautiful, beautiful space. I mean, I enjoyed all of them, but yeah, in the old building or gym, we weren't there for too long. So a lot of my memory there is not as specific as I think classes are before me. They were there a lot
Right.
longer.
That makes sense
So
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. I know Bitsy Irby is so beautiful. It's like
it's so
on
beautiful.
another
Yeah,
level. I don't know. There's not
I
very many other
know.
studios that I've been to that are quite as like
Quite as
just all the natural light and yeah, it's just
Yes,
gorgeous. So
that's what I love. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So such a cool experience. I guess I just barely missed like that transition
Hmm.
point, but but I
Yeah,
think I did actually experience the studios the other way because I came to a ballet mag intensive.
yeah. That's
Hmm.
how I found out about the school was I went to Ballet Mag Intensive in '04. Yeah,
That's amazing. I know. It's like
yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of
I think so
found out
too.
about it through that and then like, oh,
Yeah,
there's a dance department here and there's a
yeah.
degree program and stuff like
I
that. So
know.
super
I
cool. Love
know.
that
It's
connection.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so fun. We'll probably talk more about Belhaven and your
Sure.
experience in a little bit. But I would love to
Yeah.
let you introduce yourself, just where
Oh,
you're at, what you're up to right now, and kind of catching up,
okay.
like the brief catch up of where you
What
are
I'm doing.
and what
Okay.
you're doing. And now, like, your married name as well, which is super fun.
Yes, yeah. So currently I live and am in Pueblo, Colorado. So I am a resident choreographer and dance instructor at a center called the Sangre de Cristo Center that has a school of dance. It's actually a pretty cool building because it's there's a school of dance, there's a theater within that facility as well. There's a
Ooh,
children's museum, there's galleries, there's always events going on. So it's like a huge like a big Southern Colorado Arts Center. And so I've been
that's
here.
awesome.
It's my 10th anniversary being there.
Congratulations. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I know it's a long time. And so I do that as well. And then I founded through the Art Center Evolve Dance Project, which is a professional dance company kind of filtered in through the same organization. So we are going into our season this summer. So yeah,
Wow.
so it's another little anniversary. So it's
Yeah.
I didn't know if I'd make it past year one because it's was so hard.
I
But
can imagine.
it's been a blessing, yeah. And so it's a small company, and we've been able to do different things here in Colorado. Like there's an organization called CODIO, which is Colorado Dance Education Organization, and we performed
Ooh.
there, and I've taught there, and I've done some audition classes for students that are, different schools from the country come and are able to watch
Mhm.
and offer scholarships or whatever. So I've taught some of those classes for those professors to see. We've done a festivals in Denver called Presenting Denver, where we've done their actual dance festivals where we've performed with different companies all over
Mhm.
Denver and Boulder and stuff. And so it was really cool because a lot of people didn't know there was a professional dance company in Pueblo because we're such a small city and we're pretty south.
Okay.
So yeah, so we've gotten quite a bit of exposure and it's continuing to grow. We're going into having our third summer dance intensive this summer. And so
That's
yeah, so we're
awesome.
gearing up for that. And we just finished our kind of our season show that we usually do in the spring. So we did that a few weeks ago. We do outreach programs. So we go to different
Aw.
schools here and do kind of like a little 20-minute program and introduce kids just kind of to the art of concert dance and in connection with
Mm.
the art center. So
Love
yeah, so
that.
we've done stuff with the symphony here just this last December. So with like live music and dance, so it was a lot of fun. And it's like a whole
Yeah.
different experience doing stuff to live music. So we've gotten around in the last almost 5 years. So it's
Yes.
been a huge blessing and yeah. So that's kind of what I'm like doing currently. And then yes, I'm Brittany Walker. And
Yes.
so yeah, I got married gosh, what year is this? I'm getting so much older, almost 4 years ago. Yeah,
That's so exciting. Yeah.
and I have
Congratulations.
I don't mind sharing this since my second marriage. So I do have a 6-year-old
Yeah.
from my first marriage.
Oh, that's so sweet. And
Yeah,
she is
yeah,
so cute
yeah,
because
she's
she was
fun.
at the
She did.
reunion, right?
Yes,
Yes.
she was. Yes, yeah, she's spicy. And
She is
yeah,
so cute.
yeah,
Oh
so
my goodness.
we did a little girls trip, just me and her together, and she came with me. So it
Yeah.
was nice. Yeah.
So
So yeah,
fun.
so it's kind of like my life currently, I guess. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah.
Sure.
And I love, yeah, it was so fun seeing everybody at the reunion. And I'm so glad you
Yes.
were there. We got to watch you and Kim's piece, which was so beautiful
Yeah.
and like epic. It
Thanks.
was
Yeah.
a cool piece.
Thanks.
So if
Thanks.
anyone gets a chance to, I don't know if there's video of it
I
out
do.
somewhere.
I think I posted it privately, maybe, but I
Okay.
can share a link, I'm sure. Yeah. I'll
Okay,
double
cool.
check with
Yeah.
Krista. I don't think it matters. I'll double check with her. But yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
perfect.
do
Yeah,
have a
that would
link.
be so
Yeah.
cool. If not, we can like
Yeah.
people reach out to us and we can get you.
Yes.
But it was
Yes.
really,
Yes.
really
Yes.
cool. But it was just fun seeing everybody and a lot of people's kids there. And then they did the improv jam and there's like kids running
Yes.
around and it was so, so
Yes.
cool. I love it.
Yeah, I know.
Like
I wish
seeing
I
the
had made it
families.
to that. Yeah, I didn't. It's a little harder
Yeah.
when kids come to do everything. It's just a different energy.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that day
Trying
was
to
fun.
like follow them
Yeah,
and yeah, keep them
exactly. Yeah,
entertained to some degree.
exactly. Yes, yes.
For sure. But yeah, so cool. Thanks for sharing. And I love hearing kind of where
Sure.
you're at now. And so excited to hear about Evolve and more kind of the
Yeah,
process of how that came together. But let's
yeah.
go maybe back a little bit to
Okay.
early years and
Yeah.
how did you first get
I was
involved in dance? And
okay.
yeah,
So I'm from Miami, Florida.
cool.
My
I
parents,
don't know if I knew that actually. That's
oh, you
really cool.
didn't? Oh yeah, I'm from Miami.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
my parents are Jamaican, so I grew up going
Cool.
back and forth from Miami to Jamaica to visit family and stuff like that. So.
Love that.
Jamaica has a very special place in my heart. It's like my second home.
Yes. And it's beautiful
So
there too. I've gotten to be there
oh,
one time and it was
I know
so
it's so
pretty.
gorgeous. Yeah, I love
Yes.
the water.
Uh-huh.
So I'm from Miami, and apparently, and I have no recollection of this because I was very small, but this is what I was told. So my dad got Miami City Ballet Nutcracker tickets, and apparently, the day of the show, I had a horrible cold. So my dad and my
Mm.
parents were like, "Oh no, she's sick. Should we go? Should we not go?"
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "Well, let's just go. We have tickets. The worst, if anything happens, we can leave, whatever." So
Hmm.
apparently, so I went, and according to my parents, I was like in awe. And like the people behind us didn't even know that there was like a little girl in front of them because I was so
Wow.
quiet and just like enthralled, I guess, with the
Uh-huh.
whole shebang. And
Aw, that's so sweet.
I know. And then my babysitter, um, I guess who was our neighbor too, danced. And so my mom asked her, where do you dance? And I think within that week, my mom signed me up at the studio she went to. And then I started there doing kind of creative movement stuff from 3 to maybe 5 or 6 years old. Then sadly,
Mm-hmm.
there was a huge hurricane called Hurricane Andrew that happened when I was about 5 years old and wiped out a lot of things. And that
Mm.
studio, I think, was one of them. It was kind of hard to recover from. And
Wow.
so the studio owner recommended another studio. They were like good friends and had danced together. And from 6 on, that's where I went. And
Oh,
then,
okay. Cool.
yeah, so I kind of just, I say I started dance at 6 because to me, I'm like, that's when technique kind of starts. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I do pay a lot of, like, if I never went to that Nutcracker, I probably would not have known much about this. So I went to that
Yes.
studio from I was 6 on. I got into a performing arts high school, which was kind of cool. It's called Coral Reef Senior High, which is
Mm.
you know what a magnet school is?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so magnet school typically is a performing arts high school, but this
Mm-hmm.
one is kind of, I think, or I should do my research, but I think it's 1 out of 7 in the country. It's called a mega magnet school. So it has
Whoa.
different magnet programs. So within like
Okay.
the visual performing arts, there's like the dance, the music, the theater, the voice, the band, the orchestra, theater, art, visual art. So they had like 7 strands with VPA. And then there was like a legal program, a medical program, an
Oh, wow.
IBIS program, an agri-science program,
Hmm.
business, like, there were so many. So I was in the
That's
dance
cool.
program in that school. So I was there obviously, for 4 years, and then
Yeah.
went to Belhaven for 4 years, and then it just my trajectory just kind of kept going with dance stuff. So
That's
yeah.
incredible. Yes, I saw
Yeah.
something. I think it was something recently you posted maybe on Instagram that was about just like your dance journey and
Oh yeah,
yeah, just being
yeah.
like, how
Yes.
cool is it that I'm still dancing
Yes.
and getting to choreograph
I
and create,
I
all
know.
these years later?
I know I would have never thought. And again, something else I don't remember, but my parents told
Hmm.
me from I was about 2 to 4 or 5 years old. My dad had a CD set of like classical music. So it was like a CD of Beethoven and Bach and Strauss and Chopin and
Hmm.
a lot, all like 12, I think, of major
Wow.
composers, Vivaldi, things like that. And my dad said
Right.
that I would just put it in and play and just like just
Aw.
start, I guess, started creating from like 2 years old. I just always moved. And
It's
so I
just been
think
in
it's just,
you.
and I
Yeah.
know, I think it's just innate. I think it was
Yes.
just meant to move in some
Hmm.
capacity. So
That's
yeah, so it's,
amazing.
yeah, so that's
Yeah, I
kind
love
of
that. I
my
remember.
story.
Yes, that's such a great like origin story. But yeah, I was thinking back to at some point growing up, probably middle school-ish, just like listening to the Nutcracker music in my little
Yes.
headphones or whatever. So,
Yes, it's so
like
timeless.
it
Yeah, and it
is
it
all that.
never that doesn't get old to me. Like
Right.
I think it's beautiful. And where I work, they do the
Hmm.
Nutcracker every year. It's a big thing here in this town. So they do like maybe a dozen shows, and then
Wow.
the symphony Evolve. We did excerpts from the Nutcracker that I choreographed and kind of put a little twist on. And so
Yeah.
we did that, yeah, in December. So that was a lot of fun too. So
That's
yeah,
so cool.
it's
Well, I love
timeless.
just seeing the threads and how like God just puts things in people,
Yes,
and how
yeah,
that timing of like that spark
right.
when you saw them perform and stuff. So cool.
I know.
Love
Yes,
it. So, is there
it's
anything
cool.
that stands out from your training, either like pre Belhaven, or we can go ahead and
Hmm.
jump to Belhaven too,
Oh
if you want?
yeah. I mean, so coming from Miami, I was primarily trained by Cubans. So,
Yeah.
because it's so close. So my training was pretty rigid. Like it was we
Hmm.
danced for real. Like it was
Yeah.
kind of like that. And then I started modern and jazz from when I was 8. So I started very
Oh,
young.
that's awesome,
Yeah,
especially with modern.
yeah. With
I feel like
modern, I
that's
know
a little more
it,
rare
it
at
is
that age, or at
rare.
least when we were
It
growing up, I
is.
guess. But
It is.
hmm.
Yeah. So I started those two techniques at 8, and I've just always continued. I auditioned for Alvin Ailey, like the summer program when I was 16, with three of my other
Hmm.
dance friends at the time. And it was kind of crazy because I don't think auditions go like this anymore. But we auditioned, this process, whatever. And they actually
Hmm.
tell you after the audition if you got in. Like they'll call your number
Oh,
and they'll
wow.
be like, number, I know. It was like I didn't
Yeah.
know it was there. I thought they sent a letter, but it didn't. It was like, okay, number 5, number 10, number 13, number 17, although you guys,
Yeah.
congratulations. And so, because my mom was telling me there were some, girls crying in the bathroom and things like that, which I'm like,
Mm.
oh, it's just a cutthroat world,
It really
like
is.
dance
I know.
world. Yeah, it's
Sometimes,
really hard.
especially, it's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Man.
So luckily, me and my 3 friends all got in. So we all
Oh,
went
that's good.
together. And so that was probably a very pivotal experience in my dance training was going to Ailey for 6 weeks. I met lots of people. There's actually one teacher. I was in his repertory piece. He was, I think, my jazz teacher then. And I was in his piece for they always do like an end of summer showcase
Oh,
type thing.
yeah.
And
That's cool.
I went back to New York a few other times just in my
Mhm.
career. I took his class and he remembered me. And it was like years because I was 16 and at this point I was already
Wow.
I mean, I was in my late 20s, 26, maybe 10 years, 25, 26,
Yeah.
27, something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was like, oh my one of my Ailey teachers. So it's really cool how
Mhm.
connected the dance world really is. Like it's not as vast and big, I think, as people may think. There's lots of
Hmm.
little circles within a huge
Yes,
circle. So I think
for
people
sure.
kind of know like someone from a circle. So, or at least a
Exactly.
connection.
Yeah, there's some sort of connection or
Yeah,
overlap
there's,
there for sure.
yes, yeah. And then, like I
Hmm.
said, I went to, then the next year went to Ballet Mag, and then that's how I found about Belhaven, and then went to school, and then here we are.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
yes,
That's
yes,
amazing.
yes,
I love
yeah,
it. So, thinking back to Belhaven, what were some
right.
things maybe that most impacted you there during your time?
Ooh, good question. Well, I I have always gravitated towards creating and choreography. I've just always been like that. And so my
Hmm.
teacher at the time was a very, I would say, prominent influence in my life too. And I really tried to grasp his concepts as much as possible. Um,
Yeah.
and then I worked with him a little bit after college too, with dancing and
Cool.
choreographing.
Is this Stephen
Um,
Wynn?
with
Just double
Stephen,
checking.
yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Shout out Stephen Wynn.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so talented.
Love it.
So yes, so
That's
I
cool.
I tried to grasp those concepts. So I really enjoyed my time doing composition there and choreography because you have to do like I think it's 3 semesters of
Hmm.
a type of if you're I think if you're BFA. Things could have changed. Like
Right.
I don't know if it was like that when you were at school, but that's the track
Yeah.
that I had to take to for my bachelor's of fine arts. So I did three
Hmm.
semesters of that. And I just really enjoyed it. And then my senior project was a big one. That's like basically the whole year of prep. So,
Right.
yeah,
It's
so
a
I
massive
it
undertaking
is.
for sure.
Yeah. So I didn't perform for my senior project. I did a choreography piece. So, yeah. So I think doing those classes really kind of opened my eyes to a whole new way of thinking and being
Hmm.
conceptual and what concert dance like really is. Because I think I've always been more, I guess, attracted to that type of art than entertainment. I don't think there's anything wrong with entertainment. I think it's just me
Hmm.
naturally. I like to kind of create more conceptual things or things that people can
Hmm.
relate to with ideas and storytelling, I guess. Those classes, I think, really helped shape me in a lot of ways. So I would say that's probably
Hmm.
one of the most influential things, like from
Cool.
school that I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's neat that is something that really has continued into your career and, helped to
Yes.
set a great foundation probably for
Yes.
that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And then post college, so thinking about like going into more teaching and
Yeah.
performing and stuff like that.
Yes.
Any like lessons that stand out through
Oh,
all of that?
definitely. So after I graduated college, so I stayed, like I said, stayed in Mississippi for like 3 years, and I
Hmm.
I worked with Stephen for those 3 years, doing choreography and dancing. So
Yeah.
I for my Achilles in 2012, actually at Belhaven, when I was just taking a Kayla Mitchell ballet class. Like it
Oh,
was
yeah.
I just came. Like it was,
Yeah.
I think alumni, I don't know if things have changed, but at that point, alumni could come take whatever they wanted. And
Hmm.
I usually did just to stay in shape, just very seldom. Um,
Hmm.
so I took that class. It was in Studio 4. I'll never forget. But yeah, I
Yeah.
tore my Achilles tendon, and then moved back home to Miami for the year. So I mean, had surgery and then moved back home to Miami for the year just to kind of
Yeah.
figure out like what's happening. Because I was originally supposed to move to New York because I got some opportunities there in the summer.
Okay.
And
So
but
just like
I
a
guess
total
yes.
like
Oh,
flip
a
of
huge
plan.
shift. Yes,
Yeah.
God
And
totally
that
went.
sounds
Whoop.
so painful, by the way. I'm like, oh no,
Oh
I'm so
yeah, it
sorry.
kind of
Not fun.
sounds and feels, not that I've been shot, but feels like a gunshot.
Oh
It
man.
sounds like one for sure, yeah. And
Yeah.
so that definitely was eye-opening. And I think
Mm.
the lesson in that was perseverance for me because I wasn't rehabbing myself to be like I don't want to say it like this, but like a normal person, a pedestrian, I'll say it like that.
Hmm.
For someone that just has like a desk job or, not as active. And so I'm like, I definitely, I was 25, so I mean, I wasn't really old. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to continue, and I've worked so hard and I have my degree and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I persevered and worked really hard to get back to dancing shape. And
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so that I think that was a huge lesson for me after Belhaven was just the endurance to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know for a lot of people it could be career ending, tearing their Achilles,
Yeah.
but my mindset just wasn't on being done. And I don't
Yeah.
think it was supposed to be done anyway. Maybe it was supposed to be a
Right.
pause, and that's okay. But I
Mm-hmm.
worked really hard to get back to a somewhat of a dance shape. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so hard, but also I'm sure like such a huge
Yeah.
character thing. And yeah, it
Yes.
sounds like mindset was a huge part of that. Like
Oh,
keeping
yeah.
a mindset of, okay, I'm going to continue to grow through this
Yes.
and I will
Yes.
get through this
Yeah.
kind of thing. Any
Right.
other tips for people that maybe are facing something like that? I know injury
Oh,
happens a lot.
yeah.
So,
Injury does happen a lot. I mean, I had a good group core group of support. Like when I moved back home, I had a couple friends that were going to a Bible study or a
yeah.
small group. So I joined that and I became
Okay.
in that season of my life really close with them. So I think that really helped at having
Mm-hmm.
that support. And when I did find a couple teaching jobs, I knew it was going to be just for the interim. Like my plan, I wasn't going to be home in Miami for long. I knew it was just going to
Mm-hmm.
be until I recovered and something came along. So I think finding a support group of
Mm-hmm.
sorts is really helpful because I don't think I could do it. My parents are a good support too, but I don't think by myself I could have
Mm-hmm.
done it really
Yeah.
well or successfully.
Right. I feel like
Yeah.
isolation can be really hard for
Yes.
just in general, like our
Just in
mindset and
general.
our perspective on life
Yes.
and stuff. And then to have
Right.
something like that, so
Yeah.
crucial, I
And
think,
then
to have that community.
yeah, and when you grow up being so active, like you do something very active, and
Mm-hmm.
then obviously you have to take a huge pause on the activity because you can't walk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh my gosh. So for me, I felt like I had nothing, there was nothing else to do other than turn to God or
Mm.
support or, things like that. Like I
Yeah.
just, because I could see where it could go downward fast, like with your mindset,
Mm-hmm.
if it's depression or anxiety or anything or
Right.
worry or fear. And not to say I didn't feel those things initially when it did happen. I was really
Yeah.
upset. Like, yeah.
Understandably,
So,
for sure.
yes. So
And
I
kind of
think
allowing yourself to feel those things
feel
and
that,
process
yes.
it. Yes.
Oh,
Let it
I
come.
had to. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
upset. And I remember being
Yeah.
on the phone. Luckily, it was my left foot, so I could still
Oh,
drive.
good. That's good.
So yeah, I just remember being in the car driving on the phone with my parents and I was just angry and I was like, I cannot believe this has
Mm.
happened to me at this age and yeah, like what the heck, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm like, this is all I've done since I was 6 years
Mm.
old. I just trained and trained and trained and worked and worked and worked and sacrificed and sacrificed, sacrificed. And
Yeah.
now I'm have this potential career ending injury and yeah, so I did have those moments, and it didn't last long. So I was blessed. I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah.
Um, so because
That's good.
I think in my head I knew I would come back to doing to dancing. So yeah,
Yes, so good. Thanks for sharing that. I feel like that's
yeah,
something that people can probably really relate to. Or, if
yes,
they face that in the future, then it's like, okay,
yes, yeah,
here's some things that are going to help
yes,
along the way,
yeah,
along the journey.
yes, yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So, what got you from Miami then to Colorado? Or what was
Um,
it might have been multiple things
the
in between there.
yeah,
So,
it was. So funny enough, Stephen Stephen win again.
oh,
And Michelle Boutros was working for
yeah.
him
Yeah,
at the
Michelle.
time.
Yes.
And they were actually where I'm at now, the art center. He was the artistic director of the School of Dance. And
Okay.
apparently there was a studio in the Springs that was looking for a summer intensive teacher, like jazz or modern or whatever. And so
Yeah.
Michelle was like, "Oh, I know the person." And so that director gave me a call and I talked with them for a little while and then I think I came for 2 weeks, I want to say. And then I kind of
Okay.
was able to interact with the art center and see what that was like as well as the studio in Springs. And then eventually I got hired originally with the studio that's in I'm sorry, I say the Springs. Colorado Springs is 45 minutes. I forget, people might not know.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's 40,
That makes sense. I was
45.
like,
Yeah,
maybe
sorry,
Colorado Springs.
45.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it is Colorado Springs. Yeah, it's 45 minutes from where I live. So it's
Okay.
a little more north. Not a
Yeah.
huge commute, just two different cities. Sorry, I
Hmm.
apologize. So I'm so used to
You're
just
good.
talking.
No
Um,
worries.
so anyway, I got hired at that studio in Colorado Springs, and then I moved right then and
Okay.
there. And then I did a little bit with the Art Center when Stephen was here, like back and forth. I was in one of his shows. I mean, I
Mhm.
did something for him in the summer. I did like a little choreography piece. Yeah. And so then it just the trajectory just kind of I went back and forth with the Springs from the Springs to Pueblo a lot, and
Mhm.
um Michelle became a director, and then now I have Nan's been the director since 2017. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I've just worked with a plethora of people in Colorado.
That's
So
amazing.
that initially
Yeah.
was it was such a small world, like I was talking about. Yeah, that
Right.
I
Those
ended up here.
connections.
Yeah, those
Hmm.
connections. Yeah. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I got from A to B.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Like fills in the gap.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
what was it that inspired you to start Evolve Dance Project?
Ooh, well, my dream, literally, since I've been 8, 9, 10 years old, was to
Hmm.
choreograph. And then a little later down the road was to have my own professional dance company. That's all I wanted. I've never wanted a
Wow.
dance studio. I've never wanted that. I just wanted professionals to choreograph on and dance and do stuff with.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
so in I want to say 2017, I initially started Evolve. I even did a photo shoot, was
Oh.
kind of in the beginning stages of my first project, was going to, open for, because we have different shows that come in, the potential to be
Hmm.
an opener for a show that was
Oh,
coming
cool.
to the Art Center. But
Yes.
then life kind of happened. So things went on pause.
Hmm.
People's trajectories changed or moved and that kind of thing. Then I got married. Then I danced in Denver for a while. Then I had a baby. And then I got
Hmm.
divorced. And then it was COVID.
Hmm.
So it was
Wow.
just
It's just
like,
like back to back. Yeah.
yeah,
Like this
it
is
was just like
not the season. Yeah.
no, yes. So I started like from a while. And when COVID
Hmm.
happened, there was so much downtime that Nan, the current director now of the School of Dance, and I were in lots of conversations. There were people that were alumni from the School of Dance that were coming back to Pueblo because New York shut down.
Mm.
Florida was, people that had danced everywhere were coming back home. And I was like, this could be a good start for
Mm.
Evolve. Like this could I mean, I know there's restrictions now, but I know it's not
Right.
forever. And so that's honestly just how it started. So in
That's
2020,
so cool.
I
I
kind
like
of
that there
started the
was,
idea. Yeah,
something that I don't know. It's cool seeing the things that did come out of the pandemic,
COVID. Yes,
and the
yes.
space
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
allowed for some things. So, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that was kind of, I was able to do a lot of um, brainstorming during that time. And
Hmm.
I'm in a very blessed position where Art Center is already established 501(c)(3. So I independently, I don't have to do that like work.
Mm.
They have their grant writers as well as, they have a whole upstairs team for the art center as a whole.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah, so I'm in a not the norm situation where I have to work to get my own 501(c)(3 and this license and
Hmm.
this and rent a studio space or a theater because it's all accessed there.
That's incredible.
So
Yes.
it's a huge blessing. So yeah, so I was just doing all that like brainstorming and like work, and the dancers were coming back, and yeah, so that's just how I was like, okay, I think this is the time.
Right.
And
Like,
so
okay,
yeah,
things are lining
I
up.
know
Yeah.
things are
Wow,
lining
that's
up. So
awesome.
in 2021, fall of yeah, 2021, we did our first show, and so then
Mm.
it's just yeah, it's just continued. So
Continue
yeah,
to grow and build and everything. And
and build. Yeah.
what would you say is like the vision or maybe a mission? I don't know if y'all have like a
Oh,
mission statement
okay.
or a vision statement
Yeah.
for Evolve.
So Evolve, Evolve is, I feel like it exists to bridge the gap of the community with concert dance and education, since we do some outreach as well. And there's a lot of people slash kids that just don't know a whole lot about the arts. Even though I live in a very
Yeah.
artsy town, but there's still a huge amount of people that just are not aware because of
Yeah.
financing. Just where I live, a
Right.
lot of the times, a lot of people are on assistance, so that it's
Hmm.
just they're just not able to afford dance classes or anything for their kids.
Yeah.
So being able to do
Makes
those
sense.
outreach and bringing them, educating little by little, and this is what we have going on, as well as educating the people that are here on what concert dance is and what that looks like and what art is. I would say that's primarily the whole vision of Evolve. So it's basically like enhancing Southern Colorado culture.
Love that.
So yeah,
Yes. And it's neat that it's bringing kind of that aspect of concert dance to that area specifically, like you said,
yeah,
like if there's some stuff going on like Denver or other places, but
yes, yeah,
yeah, being able to
yeah,
branch
yeah.
out there. So I love
Yes.
that. And do you guys have
Yeah.
any like, or do you have vision for the future as far as what you hope to see in the next, I don't know,
Oh,
5, 10 years or?
5, 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, to keep going,
Yes.
um,
That's the main thing. Keep going.
continuing to get funding. So we've been blessed to get funding and just, continuing to be able to do that. The first two
Hmm.
years, I think, were the hardest working at that. And then year three happened it just happened.
Yeah.
So the next 5 to 10, yeah, just to keep going, get funding, do more collaborations like we did with the symphony. Hopefully able to do a collaboration with a jazz band that's here in town and do
Mm.
something fun like that. Yeah, and just to continue to grow and get our name out there and just do more connection with other artists, other kinds of
Hmm.
artists too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what I see
So
and
cool.
and yeah,
Love it. Yeah. It's interesting thinking about when you start something and you're building and growing, and it really does
yes,
feel like it takes a few years for
yes,
things to
it
kind
does.
of build some momentum and,
Yes, for
yeah,
sure.
for people maybe to recognize what you're doing and kind of
Yeah.
start to build some trust and things like that. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's definitely a lot of work and it's more than I thought, even with
Hmm.
having the support of the art center. Because there's just a lot of back leg work I do too, just with preparation and artists and planning and dates
Hmm.
and finance and budget and that, it's a lot more than I thought, like, in that sense, like the book end of it, as well as I also do all the choreography and everything.
Yeah.
So, um,
Right. So you're
so
kind of wearing
there's
all
just,
those different hats,
yes,
which,
two hats,
yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally enjoy it and it is my
Yeah.
dream and I feel blessed to be able to continue and do my dream because I know it's not something I'm gonna do till I'm 80 or 90. Our bodies can
Yeah.
only last so much, so or for so
Right.
long. So I'm just going as far as I can, and I feel like God will tell me when to quit.
Right. Yeah. That's such
Yeah,
good wisdom for sure.
yeah,
And then he'll
yeah.
be there in that transition and,
Yes,
guiding
yes,
into the next thing, whatever that is. And
yeah.
yeah. So if anyone is thinking about starting a company, do you have any words of
Mm.
wisdom, advice?
Words of wisdom. Oh, let me think. Well, I think keeping your vision and true to
Hmm.
yourself is a good thing.
That's
Because it
huge.
does
Yeah.
brand you. I mean, business wise too, everyone is
Hmm.
you're creating a brand for yourself
Yeah.
essentially. And then, just to keep going if there are ever rejections or hardships, not to let
Hmm.
that hinder or stop you. Because I personally believe everyone needs to experience art, like any type of art. And
Hmm.
your art, everyone's art should be heard or felt or watched or listened to or, whatever. Because
Hmm.
there's nothing like, for me, there's nothing quite like expressing your thoughts,
Hmm.
you know, even
Yeah.
even physically, non-verbally, which is what
Right.
dance is essentially. So I think
Yeah.
I think it's totally worth it because you never know who who's supposed to see what you're doing. Like they may have no
Hmm.
idea and came to your performance and show with nothing in mind and then something touched them and or there was a revelation of
Yeah.
some sort that they didn't know they needed. Um,
Right.
so I
So
think
true.
I think all art is just essential and to keep going when those hardships, you know, happen. And
Mm.
of course, come to everything with prayer because, like I said,
Yeah.
with Evolve, like I thought of it in 2017, but it just wasn't supposed to be the season for it. And that's okay. I
Yeah.
was supposed to be in the season I was slash am for it to begin and
Hmm.
thrive and that kind of thing.
Yes,
So,
that's so good.
not to get discouraged if maybe it's just not the season, but just to keep your vision, going because maybe it's not next year, maybe it's in 2 years. Like you never
Hmm.
know. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so, so good. Keeping the vision in front of us. And
Yeah.
then continuing forward. And I think sometimes that's true that it's like God will plant seeds for
Yes.
something that's not for now, but it's like a
Yes.
future thing, and
It's a future. Yep.
it's easy to try to like make it happen in our own strength or
Right.
timing or whatever, and then
Yeah.
yeah, realizing like, okay, maybe this is so that I can be like hopeful for the future and continue to
Right.
grow and develop the idea and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yes.
so such a good word of wisdom. I love it. Yay, thank
Thanks.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, as an artist and looking back
Hmm.
on your whole journey so far and more to come, but
Yeah.
I don't know, how has your view of dance shifted over the years or maybe
Oh, that's a
changed
good
and
question.
developed?
Well, wow, that's a really good
It's a really
question.
big question, actually.
It's a big
This is like,
question.
this very,
Yes. There's so many
what's the word?
facets to it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
theoretical or something. Very deep.
Theoretical. Yes. Oh, in the years, I think I was fortunate enough to have exposure to such good dance and technique from I was young. Going to the studio I was, going to Ailey when I did, starting modern and jazz when I did, going to the school that I did, that I kind of was on this trajectory of I knew what art was, like
Mm,
from small.
yeah,
I knew what my aesthetic was right away, and I knew what I liked and what I didn't like, or what I appreciated and what I didn't appreciate.
that's
I
cool.
think now, being at the age that I am, I think my focus is so much more on artistry now and making connection with people and the
Mm.
audience and not worrying too much about my height or my height, my leg height. I mean, like,
Yes,
how
yes.
high my leg goes, or,
Hmm.
how rotated I am, or, things
Yeah.
like that. Is my shoulder up? Is my shoulder down? Like, there's certain things that I'm not as focused on. Not that I'm
Hmm.
unaware, but I think my focus has just shifted, as opposed to I think maybe when I was in a school slash maybe a little bit in college, I was really focused on that. And I don't think it was very positive for me in that
Mm.
sense, like for myself, because it got very self-critical instead of thinking like, every dancer has different gifts. Like some are more of a
Yeah.
turner, some have more rotation, some are easy parallels easier for them, modern's easier
Hmm.
for them, some are more grounded, some can really jump, I think I was just
Yeah, and
focused
we can
on,
get so
yes, so like
like focused
into
on the things that
ourselves.
we're less strong in
Yeah,
or overly
exactly.
critical. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it just becomes inhibiting and self-destructive. And so I think after a little after college and after injury, maybe even more, my
Yeah.
my focus completely shifted. And I was like, I'm just gonna focus on my connection with the audience and my art and how this makes me, how it feels, things like that. So I think that's really helped, as well as my perspective on injury too, especially having had a big one. My my injury, I think, really helped shift my mindset to that comes first, and
Hmm.
not so much worried about the dance. And I hate to say it like that, but like
Yeah.
I think a lot of teachers slash choreographers, or anyone in the dance world that's working with anyone, I think their injury and their prevention and taking care of their body comes first, more so than the actual dance. Because in
Hmm.
retrospect, as much as I love art, it still is just dance right now in that sense.
Yeah.
Like if someone hurt themselves and they need to back off, hey, that's okay. Like
Yes.
my dance will survive. Like I can
Right.
adjust. It's okay. They need to take care of themselves. So I think having that injury, my mindset totally shifted to be more like that instead of like this perfectionism and I
Hmm.
got to work through this pain, even though I'm crying inside and I'm but I have to do this and I have to do that, which in the
Yeah.
long run ends up being way more harmful. And the
Hmm.
longevity probably will shorten, working like that.
Right.
So something
Right.
that I think has shifted for me too.
Yeah, that's so good. And I feel like the shift there is probably especially helpful as a teacher and now also, a choreographer working with
Yes,
dancers a lot, seeing, kind of that like human first aspect
yeah,
in athletics
exactly.
too. The idea of like,
Right.
okay, your health and who you are as a person is takes priority over this like
Exactly.
product that we're trying to
Product.
create. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good, I
Yeah.
feel like that's a really healthy way to approach it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and hopefully, I think as a whole, maybe in the dance world, we're kind of shifting more that
I
way.
hope so
I hope.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that more when I went to Belhaven this last
Hmm.
time with Kim and having their, what do you call it, like on the clock PT person, and they
Yes.
have like red slips or green slips or yellow slips like for their injuries, and that's
Hmm.
something we didn't have at school. And I think maybe the education just wasn't there yet, and that's
Right.
okay, or the mindset was different. And so I'm
Hmm.
trying hard in that way to like give myself grace. If something is really killing me, I'm just like, okay, don't push it, like I'm just not going
Right.
to push it. Whereas
That's good.
before I would push, push, push. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. So, so good. So, kind of similar question, but a little bit different
Hmm.
focus. So, just as a choreographer, I'd love to hear about your creative process. And I know obviously lots of
Mm.
influence from Stephen Wynn. That's awesome. And I remember I got to take, I did get to take one class with him in like
Okay. Yeah.
composition,
Yeah.
choreography. So, I remember
Yeah.
some of
He's
that
so
process
brilliant.
and
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then
I
seeing it in
think,
different
yeah,
perspectives, like with him and then with some other teachers as well. Like it's just cool that there's
right.
so many
It's
approaches, I feel like.
there's so many approaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we talked about, so Stephen was my teacher. So I did learn a lot of the concepts from him, and I've
Hmm.
always been drawn to wanting to portray things that were real. So, like real life instances, what people go through, emotionally or, physically or mentally or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and using those types of concepts that people can relate to, maybe in an abstract way. And I, I think that's just, I've always just been drawn to that. When I come up with a concept, the hard part, this is the hardest part to explain. I really don't know. It literally just comes to me.
That's cool.
It could be in the car, in the shower, doing laundry, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And then I just write
Yeah.
it down. And a lot of the time it comes to me when I'm already in the middle of my previous, like, current
Ooh,
project.
okay.
Yeah, so I like with Evolve, think the project somehow comes to me when I'm not even finished with the current one that we're working on. And so I
That's
just
incredible.
write
I feel
down
like that's
things
just a God
quickly.
given, like, he's just
Might
like,
be,
boom,
and it
deposit. I
just
don't know.
pops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, and it's not something I've never really been able to explain. That's how the concept, I guess, comes, and then ideas from there start to flow. I create playlists with music
Hmm.
that will pop up, and I'll save it to a certain playlist, like, ooh,
Oh,
this
that's
might
cool.
be an idea. So I kind of
Yeah.
already come up with some sort of broad spectrum of a sort, maybe
Hmm.
6 months before I even start. Um,
Cool.
and
So it's just
then
kind of like
yeah,
going in the back of
it
your
just
mind and
yes, it just
collecting things
comes.
that fit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then with actual movement, for me the music always kind of comes first, and what helps me influence me. I know there's a lot of choreographers that can just come up with movement with no music, and to me
Hmm.
that's harder for me personally.
Got it. Yeah.
And so I have to have the music to come up with that idea, and then hopefully it portrays into the concept. So yeah, so my creative process is a little weird because it comes so far ahead before I actually even do it. So I don't
Yeah.
have, at least not yet. I've never experienced yet kind of a dry spell. I don't know, a dry, like, oh, I
Hmm.
can't think of anything because it just comes before I even do it. So
That's
that's,
awesome.
yeah. So I know I don't sound like the best answer, but
No,
that's
it's
just
really cool.
kind of
Yeah.
how it happens for me.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
super cool. I
Yeah.
like hearing people's different process because It is. It really varies from person to person, and
Yes.
just neat seeing how we're
Yeah.
all individual in that, and
I I
that's okay.
know.
There's different
It is
approaches.
okay. And I don't
Hmm.
know if so 2 years ago, so I got diagnosed, I have ADHD. So I
Gotcha.
don't
Okay.
know if that plays a part, with how my
Yeah,
brain works.
that's cool.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that could play a part in some way, and I
Right.
don't realize how my brain works in that sense because I know
Hmm.
ADHD looks a lot different in females than it probably does in males.
Right.
I was never like bouncing off the walls, like I could contain myself, but I think it's more my mental that goes,
Hmm.
kind of
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which in a
So
way could almost become like
it's
a
exhausting.
yeah, an asset maybe, and like
An
you're like a little
asset. Yeah.
superpower.
Blessing and a curse
Exactly,
because I
exactly.
can't sleep because I'll come with an idea and I'm like, oh,
Right.
I can't sleep. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that could be part of it. Maybe.
Yeah, it's cool how
Yeah.
sometimes things that can be that challenge in one sense can also
Ex
be a blessing. And
yes. Yes.
yeah,
Totally.
that's really
Yeah.
neat. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm curious, you've already touched on this somewhat with,
Hmm.
how you've shifted after post injury, especially, but just as
Hmm.
an artist, how do you feel like you've kind of learned to shift through those different seasons?
Ooh, that's a good question.
'Cause it can be kind of
Definitely.
hard when to transition, I
Yeah.
feel like, or to let maybe release some things as we go, stuff like that.
As you go, I think, I mean, I've definitely evolved, not meaning to say that word, but
I love it.
yes. Um, I would say from especially post injury to the start of Evolve slash COVID time, I think I was just like a completely different person. Um, I think my focuses were different. Plus, in my life, going through a divorce and then was
Yeah.
a single mom for a while, and then having newborn slash
Mhm.
toddler to when I met my current husband, the world was just so different and complicated and complex. And so I felt like that Brittany was completely different than the Brittany than after I got married. And then I felt
Mm.
like I was coming kind of back into myself. And my art,
Yeah.
I think, has also shifted a little bit too. Like even with the
Yeah.
influences we were speaking about, with like choreography, even though I think my influence definitely was strong, but my I still wanted my own flavor, so to speak. Like I
Yes.
still was like, I love these ideas and taking those concepts, but I want to twist
Mhm.
them where it makes sense for me. Um,
Right. Kind of bring your own
so yes,
voice
and
into it.
exactly, because I mean, essentially, I'm like, this is my topic, so I want to
Hmm.
want to say it how it makes sense to for me and hopefully for other people too.
Hmm.
And I think my comfort in that has gotten so much more at ease. There are times, not gonna lie, there are times where I do struggle with like this up and down, like, is this good? Is this not good? Oh my gosh, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? Is this dumb? Is this not
Hmm.
dumb? Like, I think I'll
Yeah.
always like struggle through that, but then I kind of have to just let that season or let that time just happen, and then I come back and I'm
Mm.
like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and then making a decision, kind of like
Right.
me and Kim's piece that we did for the Belhaven
Yes.
show on imposter syndrome. We totally go through that. Like we totally
Yeah.
relate to all of that. So it was
Hmm.
also very healing for me. And I think I find when I do pieces that I've gone through,
Hmm.
it kind of flows out naturally of anything I'm feeling or I've gone through or things like
Hmm.
anything. It
Yeah.
tends to just work. So
Right.
yeah.
And that's cool how it can kind of be like a healing internally through that
Yes.
choreographic process
Yeah.
as well. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
good. Well, as we kind of wrap up, it's crazy. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so fun because we could dive into so many different things, but I'm glad we were able
There's
to
a
touch on
lot.
a lot of topics. That
Yeah.
was really, really cool. Yeah, I would love to hear just if you have anything on your heart to share with other artists right now. So could be fellow
Ooh,
alum or
yeah.
just like generally.
Well, first off, I want to say I loved the alumni event. I thought that was so awesome and amazing to see people I haven't seen in so long after
Yeah.
school. So I thought that that made my heart like warm. And then it
Yes.
was almost like a odd familiarity being in those studios too. Even when me and
Mhm.
Kim went back, it was so surreal. So sorry, side note, not to get distracted, but
Yeah, no,
when
that's great.
me I arrived first when me and Kim were setting our piece in August. I arrived
Hmm.
first, like my plane just got in earlier, and she was in the evening. Um,
Yeah.
Apparently there was some senior auditions, like they were auditioning underclassmen for their pieces, like maybe it was choreography pieces or
Oh,
senior
yeah.
something like that. So, because I was just walking around school because everything was so different for me than when I was there.
Right. There's so
So
many new buildings and all that.
there's
Yeah.
so many new buildings, yeah. So Bitsy Irby was open. It was a Sunday and it was open, so I just went up there. And so I was like,
Yeah.
and then in Studio 4, they were doing these auditions, and I was like, oh, I'm Brittany. I'm one of the guests. Can I just watch? I'm just waiting for Kim. And I'm like, "Shh." So I sit down and watch, and one of the songs one of the seniors played was the same song that me and Kim did a duet to for a Doxa concert our senior year. Yeah, I was
What?
like,
That's
what?
wild. That's so
I
crazy.
know. I know, because that was like 2009 when we
Like, what are the
graduated.
odds, you know?
Like
Yeah.
what the heck? And that she's like coming and we're doing something together. So anyway, that was a
Wow.
weird full circle moment in my life. So I know that was like a side story, but I just
I love
thought of
that
that.
though. That was such a good
Yeah.
story. Whoa.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So advice, what I like to share with fellow artists is just to keep creating. I mean, those that,
Yeah.
do create or even teaching. Teaching is also, as
Mhm.
I teach as well. I mean, you have to create too, like being in class and
Yes.
creating, uh, lessons or, whatever you do. So you're constantly creating and you're constantly thinking as a teacher too and a choreographer. And I think my advice is just to keep going. If you
Mhm.
ever feel like you maybe are in a rut or dry spell or whatever, there's always taking a break, taking a pause. You'll never know
Mhm.
where inspiration comes from. And I love that because I think inspiration can come from anything, like literally anything. Like I step
Yes.
outside and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I just had a thought. So I think just to keep going and keep persevering in your art is the main thing because I think people nowadays, especially nowadays, need to see art and feel truth and just feel
Mm.
in general. I don't think there's anything wrong with just feeling. Like I
Right.
think that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful. I love it.
Yes.
So, I like to ask everyone that comes on just for fun, what is one of your
Yeah.
favorite things right now?
I actually well, I enjoy going to the gym and
Yay, love it.
I enjoy riding my bike. Here
Mhm.
though, unlike Florida, it's very weather, like we're very, we have the seasons here. So I
Yes.
really can only ride my bike seasonally, like
Mm,
end of spring, summer, maybe early fall, if that. So
right.
yeah, so I was able to get out my bike a couple weeks ago for spring break
Oh,
with my little girl,
yay.
and so yeah, so it's just
Aw.
something I just like to do is just to ride my
So
bike.
fun. It's nice because you're getting
Yeah.
outside and getting
Yes.
moving and all of that. And that,
Yes.
I'm sure
Yeah.
your daughter loves to do that with you too. Get to
She does.
hang out.
Yes. Yeah, she does. She loves it.
That's so fun. Well, that's a
Yeah.
great answer. I love that. Yeah. So I'd love to let people know how they can connect with you and also check out Evolve and,
Sure.
get plugged
Yeah.
into the work you're doing. So what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So I only really use Facebook and Instagram the most. So for Evolve,
Cool.
if you just look up Evolving Dance is our little tag name or whatever, screen
Cool.
name or profile name, whatever. And then
Right.
Facebook, if you just search Evolve Dance Project, I'm pretty sure the backslash of facebook.com is also Evolving Dance.
Okay.
So you can find it there. I share the same thing on both forms. So
Awesome.
and then my profile name personally is Miss Brits with a Z.
Love it.
And then I'm Brittany Walker on Facebook. Yeah.
Yay. So
Yes.
good. Well, Brittany, this
Yeah.
is so fun. And I love that we got to reconnect at Belhaven
I
in the fall and
know.
like have a little moment and then be able to come and do this and get to chat longer is like such a
Yes,
gift and so
I
fun.
know. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
It was so nice and such a blessing and nostalgic too.
Thank you all so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Until next time, remember that you were designed to create. You were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. I'll see you next time, friends.